Okay. Okay, do not disturb. That's great. Okay. I will.
One, two, three.
We can hear you. We can hear you.
He said he can hear me.
Okay,
I'm hearing you fine.
we're
I
good.
see
We're
you
good.
fine. I
Okay.
hear you fine.
Okay. Okay, perfect. Okay. Yeah. Oh,
Okay. Ready? You ready? Okay, tov everyone. Very good, Erev Shabbat. This week's Parsha Ki Tavo, as you are all aware, is the Parsha of the Covenant, and it will continue in Nitzavim, the covenant, the Brit, between Kaviyachal, the Rabbanu Shalom, and the Jewish people. We find from the beginning, from the time of Avraham Avinu, that there is, so to speak, this idea of a covenant, of an agreement between the Rabbanu Shalom, between heaven and earth, and that the covenant is unbreakable, even though it is violated numerous times. But that doesn't in any way end the covenant. Now, it says, Milvad, the Brit that Asher Karati Mechem Bechorei. That's the first covenant with the Jewish people generally. It's Ma'amad Har Sinai. It's the covenant of Torah. I grant you the Torah, and you will observe it, and that's the agreement. That covenant was violated almost immediately by the construction of the golden calf, by the Maaseh Oegel. So because of that, that covenant is, so to speak, if not nullified, but it certainly is weakened. Because here you have one side of the covenant that says we don't want the covenant. We don't want to be bound by it. And if you don't want the covenant, so to speak, heaven cancels the covenant. Now, in this week's Parsha, 40 years later, Moshe Rabbeinu tells them again, we're going to renew the covenant. And he tells it to them in horrendous detail. 98 curses, so to speak. And we are all witness that all 98 were fulfilled. So there's this second covenant. And this second covenant is with the Jewish people nationally. Because we'll see that in next week's Parsha, Atem nitzavim hayom kulchem lifnei Hashem Elokeichem le'ovrecha b'vris Hashem Elokecha u'v'olaso. So the Jewish people as an entity, not talking individually alone, but as an entity, they are bound by this covenant. This covenant apparently is insufficient as well. Because in the Parsha, Moshe already describes that when the Jewish people will come to the land of Israel and they will settle there, there'll be a third time that the covenant is renewed. That's at Har Grizim and Har Eval. Har Grizim, the people will respond that the covenant is positive, these special blessings. And Har Eval, again, is the place where the negative will take, is warned about. So that's a third covenant. But this third covenant differs from the other one because this one is individual. It's not national. As Baruch Asher Yokim es divrei haTorah azos. And all the curses are singular, individuals. So you have here a national covenant, and you have here a personal covenant. The personal covenant is deeply attached to the national covenant. We all know that what happens to Klal Yisrael happens to Rebbe Yisrael. Yet the Torah divides the two. He gives you a covenant that's national and a covenant that's personal. So this leaves room for how we see life. We are all bound by a personal covenant, but our personal covenant affects the national covenant. Now, it could be that all of Israel, or the majority of Israel, will observe the national covenant. But there will be those who do not want to live up to the personal covenant. And vice versa. There'll be those that will live up to the personal covenant, but they're not committed to the national covenant. So The Torah does not allow us, so to speak, that kind of latitude. So then the question is, and again, it's the next week's Parsha, which is really a piece of this week's Parsha. And that's why Moshe Rabbeinu's name doesn't appear in Nitzavim either, because it's a continuation of Kitabu. The national covenant will always drag the personal covenant along with it. And that's what Chazal meant when they said that given Shenitna Rishus Lamashchis, if, God forbid, destruction is coming because of the violation of the national covenant, then Eino Mavchin Ben Tzadik LaRosha, and the personal covenant doesn't apply, so to speak. Even the good people, the righteous people, everybody's the same. So that's the power of the national covenant. And then because of that, therefore, we struggle because sometimes we see that the national covenant is non-existent. So then we see the list of curses, the difficulties, and we realize that the personal covenant at the end of time really will not matter as far as the consequences of the violation of the national covenant. And therefore you see, for instance, it's important for us to understand it. Look in Tanakh, when the Nevi'im speak about tshuva, so they speak in terms of the entire nation. Tshuva Yisrael ad Hashem Elokecha. The whole Jewish people. There's a change in mindset. There's a change in the national mood. Whenever the Nevi'im speak about tshuva, they speak about it in a societal manner and not in the manner of individual mitzvot. We don't see them speak about putting on film or about eating matzah. They speak about a national consensus to do good things, to have an honest society. Mo Hashem Elokecha shoem imach. What does God ask of you? Kim lasos mishpat, that there should be justice, should not be a corrupt judicial. Vasos chesed, avas chesed, to love to do good one to another, should be a voluntary society. And modesty. That's what God asks of us. God asks of us 613 mitzvot. He asks for our personal behavior. And the Navi here always outlines it in societal behavior. On the afternoon of Yom Kippur, we will read the great book of Yonah, become the Haftorah. So there was a national tshuva. The king said the whole nation has to do tshuva. Not a personal tshuva. And Chazal, when they pointed out what was the cause for the destruction of the temples, it's because of national transgressions. So most of the Jews didn't worship Avodah Zarah, but Avodah Zarah was accepted in society. So the mere acceptance of society of paganism, so then the society is guilty of it, even if not everybody is a pagan. And we see that with Elio by Har Carmel. When he brings the Jewish people to a level of repentance, to return. So he says there the same thing. Then their response is Hashem hu Elokim. They don't become more observant on an individual basis. But it's a national commitment that Hashem hu Elokim. And the national commitment is the central point of tshuva. That's what the Navi says, Shuva Yisrael ad Hashem Elokecha. He doesn't say Shuva Mr. Yisrael. It has to be a national feeling that somehow Hashem hu Elokim. And the Ribono Shel Olam has, so to speak, his ways to bring that about. With all of the sound and fury of our current society, I mean, I am in the country 30 years, and I had visited for almost 20 years before. The society is different. It's not worse, it's better in terms of having a connection to the Ribono Shel Olam. So if you'll measure it in individual mitzvot, I don't know. I think it's better in that too. I think there's never been so many Shomrei Shabbat or so many Lomdei Torah. But that apparently is not the measure. It's the measure of society. Is the society willing to say Hashem hu Elokim? So that's the key to it. So the covenant, there's an individual covenant. Baruch Asher Yokim Asdivrei HaTorah Azos. That's one covenant. The individual. He will support Torah, he will observe Torah, he's for Torah. Or Asher Lo Yokim. Someone that's not willing to do that is personally liable. But that covenant is subservient to the national covenant. The national covenant is what is acceptable in society. What direction is society going in? Is it going up or down? I remember in Chicago there was a synagogue that the prayer service was on one floor. There was no women's gallery, so they had to have a mechitza in the middle. And naturally, there was a discussion regarding the height of the mechitza. And these things become very heated. So they asked one of the older rabbis in town, what does he think? How high should it be? So he said, I'm not interested in that. I'm interested as to whether it's going up or going down. What direction is it taking? Because the direction reflects the society, reflects what it is. There's another point regarding the covenant. This third covenant, our Gerizim and our Avel, is in Eretz Yisrael. The other two are in Chutz La'aretz. The Rebbeinu Shalom does not make a covenant with Avraham Avinu until he comes there to Israel. Lech lecha, you have to go there to Israel. That's where the covenant will be. The covenant in the desert, in Chutz La'aretz, is binding. But that's not the main covenant. The main covenant is in Eretz Yisrael. And that's why what happens here in Eretz Yisrael, it really defines the Jewish future everywhere. There are more Jews living in the diaspora than in the land of Israel. There are great centers of Torah in the diaspora. There are millions of observant Jews in the diaspora. But what happens here is what is koveya, is what establishes what will be with the Jewish people. And everyone knows that. That's why it's the center of everything. So, there's a pasuk that we say, and we'll say it on the Yom Noraim. Zacharti ani es brisi Yaakov. I will remember, the Rebbeinu Shalom says, my covenant with Yaakov.
Ironically.
The office brisi Yitzchak. And I will remember the covenant that I made with Yitzchak. The office brisi Avraham Eskor. And I'll remember the covenant that I made with Avraham Avinu. V'oretz Eskor. And I will remember Eretz Yisrael. But first of all the Meforshim ask, it's in the wrong order. Avraham should come first. Yaakov should come third. Why does he start with Yaakov? Go back backwards. And what does it mean, Voretz Eskor? I remember Eretz Yisrael. Eretz Yisrael is a piece of land. It's geography, it's topography. Here the Navi gives it a personality. So one of the interpretations that I heard it from my father. Father said that he heard it from Rav Kook. I found it much earlier than that too. And it says that the covenant with Yaakov is Torah. Study of Torah, the yeshivot, the creation of Torah scholarship, the educational system of Torah. That's the covenant with Yaakov. The Navi says there'll come a time that will weaken. Most of the Jewish people don't attend the yeshiva. Most of the Jewish people, tragically, are ignorant of Torah. They're ignorant of their heritage. Right? The people of the book don't know what book you're talking about. So that weakens first. We see that in the late 19th century, that it was particularly those that were in the Torah institutions that became the leaders of the secular world. They deserted first. Hafiz Brisi Yitzchak. So that's prayer, service. There's not Torah, but at least there's the synagogue. That also weakens. Yeah, you have to try and make prayer service on the street in Tel Aviv, because none of them will walk into the synagogue. That's what it. Although he said there are 1,000 synagogues in Tel Aviv, what do we have to do in the street? The answer is that we don't do it in the street, nobody will come. So the covenant with Yitzchak also weakens. It's also not what it was. When I grew up yet, there was a concept that the person was, they called him a shul yid, a Jew that had a connection to a shul. And now it's all or nothing. And then there's the covenant with Avraham Avinu. Avraham Avinu's covenant is chesed. Okay, so he's not Torah, and he's not Avodah, he's not Yitzchak, but he's Avraham. The Jewish people are Balei Chesed. With their wealth, with their spirit of voluntarism, with their goodness one to another. We're Avraham. But that also weakens. Where it says that people that tragically eat non-kosher food all of their lives, their heart becomes ardent. They don't give charity. And we can say objectively that is unfortunately the case. So it's the covenant of Yaakov no longer holds, and the covenant of Yitzchak no longer holds, and the covenant of Avraham Avinu also no longer holds. So then the Navi says, but there's one covenant that remains. Well, Eretz says score. Eretz Yisrael remains. That covenant, Eretz Asher Ini Hashem Elokecha, that the Rebbeinu Shalom views it, Mereish Shono Arach Shono, every day, and miracles every day. We're so accustomed to it, the beepers. Like that's supposed to be. Look how smart we are. So that, or it says scored, that covenant is not canceled. That's the covenant that was taken at Har Grizim and Har Evel. That's the covenant of Eretz Yisrael. That's the covenant that unites the individual with the national. And that's the covenant which binds us. And it binds us whether we wish it to or not. No one chose to go to war. No one chose all of what has happened to us in this past year. But the covenant chose that. The covenant said it was going to happen. Explicitly. It's written. For Yisam Mishugo Memare Inecha. You won't be able to watch the video. But the other part of the covenant is also Atem nitzovi mayom kulchem lifnei Hashem Elokecha. Our survival, our triumph, our ability to continue is the other side of the covenant. And that's the part that we have to appreciate and strengthen and internalize it within ourselves. So have a Shabbat Shalom, everyone, and thank you for coming. And a good year. Thank you.